Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show, stories about life in the Soviet Union. Comrade Sputnikov is back in house, and today we're going to talk about Soviet bicycles. Советские велосипеды. And we will begin with a quick lesson of the Russian language. Урок русского языка. Велосипед. Велосипед. It's a bicycle in Russian. Velosiped. In Ukrainian language, we use the same word, velosiped. Velosiped, although I was told that in the Western Ukraine, they called bicycles rover. Rover. And I remember that in northern Ukraine, in our village, older people were calling bicycles velosipedy lisapeta. Lisapeta. And kids were saying velik. Velik. That was kind of a children's word for velosiped. Velik. This video will consist of 3 parts. We're going to talk about bicycles in the cities, bicycles out of the country, in the villages, and I'll tell you my own story, how I learned to ride the bike, how I rode bikes out in Ukraine, in the villages, and in the city. But first of all, big picture. In Soviet Union, we didn't really have a shortage of bicycles. They were readily available. I remember anytime you stop at the local sports store, we call them like Record, the record, or just Sport Tavary, sport goods. There'll be a bunch of bicycles for sale. And out in the country, not that readily available, but people mostly travel to the nearby town or city and purchase bike there to bring it home. So we had enough of bicycles, no reason to wait for 6 months or a year. So the situation was pretty good. When I was researching for this topic, I discovered one big discrepancy though. Many people, even the ones who used to live in the Soviet Union, at least they claim online that they used to live in the Soviet Union, they say that it was affordable, so that Soviet bicycles were quite affordable, they weren't expensive, and it's not correct. And we'll talk about bike prices a little bit later, but look at this poster. It says, в сберкассе деньги накопили, велосипеды мы купили. We saved money at the savings bank and now we purchased our bikes. So if you have to save money at the savings bank in order to buy a bicycle, it's not really that affordable, right? And just to give you an idea, so in the late 70s, early 80s, the average price for adult-sized bike like Ukraina or Minsk, we'll talk about them a little bit later, was about 75 rubles. Average salary, 150 rubles per month. So you have to pay 50% of your monthly salary to purchase a bike. Is it cheap? Well, not really. In a picture, I don't know, if you make $5,000 right now in the United States and cheapest single-speed bike is $2,500. That's actually a lot of money. And here's the earliest picture of me. It probably was taken around 1975, 76 at the Kiev Zoo. It wasn't my bike. It's actually not really a bike, right? It's we call it a pedal horse, конь педальный. And by the way, if you want to impress anyone you know, Russian-speaking person, you can call them "Ну ты конь педальный," you're a pedal horse, and it's like an odd dog. If somebody does something really strange or unexplained, that's how we call them, конь педальный. So this picture was taken, as I said, in Kiev Zoo, and there was a photographer's little pedal horse, and I never had one of those. Конь педальный, конь педальный. Odd duck. Okay, so let's talk about bikes in the Soviet cities. If you ever saw photos of Moscow, Kiev, or other large cities, you probably would notice that there's definitely hardly any bicycles on the streets. Main reason, of course, is because we had a good system of public transportation, so that was more convenient to use a bus or trolley bus or subway to move around. And of course, in the large cities, we really didn't have a good spot to park your bike. So it was only as a recreational for adults or just as a fun thing for kids. Like at this photo, it's probably a couple of friends going for the bike ride on Saturday or Sunday, just riding around the city, enjoying the sunshine. But usually in the cities, there would be kids who would ride those bikes just to have fun after school. Another reason besides well-developed public transportation was that in the large cities it was pain in the butt to own a bike because most of us lived in tall apartment buildings, 9-story high, 16-story high, and a standard bike was too big to fit in a standard elevator, so we had to drag them up the stairs to put away, and then you go, if you like, if you have a balcony in your apartment like my family had, so you still need to roll your bike through the apartment onto the balcony. So every time you're going for the bike ride, you go through this process of getting bike from the balcony, taking outside on the street, And after you're done riding it, then you have to drag it back up again and put it away. So that was always really painful process. And it's another reason why we didn't have so many bikes in the cities. And this is actually how I lost my very first bicycle. My father purchased me a bike when I was probably about 12 or 13, right after I learned how to ride the bike. I'll talk about it a little bit later. And I just got so tired of putting my bike away into the balcony. So I ended up cutting corners and I parked it next to our apartment door where the trash unit is. We had this weird system of trash that every level in our apartment building had a lid that you dump your trash, and there's a central pipe where the trash falls down to the main floor. And I started living bike there while I go to school, and sure enough, in about a week, someone noticed that the bike is parked there and it disappeared, and that was a big tragedy. But out in the country, in the villages, bicycle was an extremely important tool of transportation, because if you live in a village, you maybe have 2, 3, up to 5 kilometers to get to the grocery store, because, we had, you can call it downtown. So there's a center of the village where the stores are, and then there's the streets go in different directions, and sometimes you can live as far as like 4 kilometers from downtown. So getting there in the summer, walk will take too long, so everyone would have a bicycle to move around. So villages will ride bikes to go shopping, they'll ride bikes to go fishing, they'll ride bikes to go mushroom picking. So all these tasks were done with the bike, because you move pretty much 3 times faster than you walk. So while in the cities you would see mostly children riding the bikes, in the villages everyone rode the bikes, including old babushka ladies, adults, teachers, everyone. A bicycle was also a popular tool for the village mail carriers. As you see at this beautiful socialist art, the lady would deliver newspapers and letters from house to house in the village, and she had to cover, I don't know how many kilometers every day. So bike was a convenient tool to do deliveries faster and more efficiently. And some of you maybe know this guy, Почтальон Pechkin, Postman Pechkin, from one of the most popular Soviet-era cartoons, Простоквашино. And speaking of socialist realism, you could see bikes quite often on the paintings of the Soviet artists. Like this one looks like a village wedding, and you have a hunk in a wife beater riding a bike. Here's another fine example. A kid looks like a young Vladimir Putin, and a picture kind of by itself looks a bit dark, but bicycle is a little bit unusual. I don't remember seeing many bikes with the hand brakes. We usually had only brakes that you use your legs, you start pedaling backwards, and that's how you stop your bike. Here's another one. Once again, it's a village motif. Looks like a kid crashed on a bike and bent his wheel, and his grandpa helping him to repair his bicycle. Here's another one. Once again, it's in the village. Kids are listening to old grandpa's stories. I think this picture is extremely adorable, and I just recall that in the Soviet Union, it was hard to find a step-through bikes like ladies' bikes. Look at this picture. A girl is riding normal full-size bike, which is really not convenient for ladies to ride, especially if you wear a skirt. And we just talked about mowing grass in the Soviet Union. Here's another fine example. A guy is sharpening his kosa, and there's a bike in the background, so he's getting ready to head out and cut some hay. And as you see, grass is pretty tall by his log cabin with dandelions in full bloom. I think this painting is really adorable. It's quite romantic. A guy is helping a young lady to fix her bike. It looks like it's a city. There has a trolley bus in the background. It's raining, and the girl has a lilacs on her luggage rack, so it's like early June in Moscow maybe, and it's just really cool painting. And to wrap up the topic of bicycles and the socialist realism, there's a couple more for you. Soviet mail carriers with the bikes. One of the oldest and probably one of the largest bike factories in the Soviet Union was the factory located in Kharkov. It was called Kharkovsky Velozavod, and this vintage film was actually filmed in Kharkov factory back in 1929. They manufactured at its heyday in the 70s around 800,000 bicycles per year, and they manufactured a total of 26 million bikes from 1923 till approximately 2001. Their most popular model was V, which stands for Velosiped 134 Ukraina. Just like Ford cars, it was mostly manufactured in black color. It's single speed, always had fenders, has that leather old-fashioned spring seat, came with the leather pouch for your tools, and there was options for the front luggage rack, and always came with the rear luggage rack. Another large bike factory was located in Minsk, the capital of Belarus, or back then we said Belarusia, Belorussia. The model was called Minsk, or later it started being called Aist, the stork. It was pretty much a twin brother of Ukraina bikes, same size the wheels, single speed, foot brake, fenders, standard seat. It came in more colors, usually was like a green or blue. This is a pretty funny photo. This is Comrade Sergey, hauling ass, and my friend's Minsk bicycle. We practiced a lot to make this shot so you really pick up the speed, and the guy was following camera, so that's why background looks so washed off. I was literally flying. And here's the picture of my friend Igor with his Minsk bicycle. This photo was taken also in northern Ukraine, in the village where I spend every summer. And here's another photo from the village. My father and my little brother Artyom riding green color Minsk bicycle. And this is normally how would you give a ride to a smaller kid. You don't put him in the back on the luggage rack because it's just not strong enough and makes your bike go funny because you back heavy. A kid would sit on the frame just like that. Okay, so I think it's a good spot to stop right here. And in my next video, we will talk about different models of the Soviet bicycles and prices. And I'll tell you my personal bike story. Thank you so much for watching Ushanka Show. Please don't forget to like this video. Post the comment. It supposedly helps YouTube to notice my videos. And we'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye.